All right, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is my first episode of my Finish What You Started series. And this particular episode is going to be on my crossing gate project. My crossing gates are NJ International. I got two sets of them. I think they're a high quality product considering N Scale doesn't have a lot of options, but this is a very good product. Good craftsmanship, nice details. So I have one pair here, and I have another pair down the block over here on the road that crosses to the town. These come in both red stripes and black stripes for the arms, and you know, generally speaking, it's a very nice model. The only thing I don't like is that because of space limitation, the arms are not able to come up all the way because there's some wiring that needs to be there for the LEDs. So, you know, I mean, they come up far enough, but I just wish they came all the way up. But that's as good as it's going to get, so I'm just going to deal with it. I like them anyway. Okay, so the way I control these gates is basically through a system called Azatrax, 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 and excellent company. Their product is amazing. I've been the more I use it, the more I find out about it, and I've had some pleasant surprises with it. So basically, that takes care of the LED illumination, meaning turning on and off and switching back and forth. I love the fact that they have a little delay or a little dim as the lights switch from left to right, making it look more realistic, kind of like the real bulbs. You know, when they shut off, there's a little bit of a dim as they get, you know, as they completely turn off. So that makes it look very realistic, and that's a great part of the product. The other part controls the arms, so the actual gate going up and down, and the gates are controlled in this situation by servos. I believe there's a way to do it with tortoise, but you know, I've never even considered using a tortoise machine, a slow motion machine. So the servos are working great, and if you can see on the panel here that I'm showing on the left, you can see that there's an actual switch or a dial where you can turn to faster or slower gate speeds. So I have it right now on the slowest possible gate speed, which I love. I think it's very realistic the way they work, and like I said, there's the tortoise machine I'm not into, but the servos are very smooth. The other part of the panel on the left side here, the Azatrax panel, is that it controls sound as well. Now it doesn't give you the sound file, but it does control the sound. It sets off the sound, I should say. So if you can see right under the Azatrax board, there's another small board that has the sound files in it. And from there, it has wires that go out to speakers. I have one speaker under this crossing and then one speaker under this crossing, so it's more directional and you can kind of feel like it's coming from that particular area. And there's also a volume control on that panel in case it's too loud. So that's where I'm getting all the sound from. The last element is the sensor control from the Azatrax board, and these boards are made to be, you know, programmed in many different ways, and also set up in many different ways with different amount of sensors. This particular board that I got works for one pair of you know, crossing gates like what you see here, or a quad, which means that you would have 4 gates total, meaning 2 here with arms and 2 there with arms. That's why you see the 4Q on the board and the 2Q. But here's the thing. These roads are not very far away from each other. So I figured instead of using it as a quad, meaning using 4 signals in one roadway, which I don't need, I decided to use the quad option, but just within this area here. My reasoning was that since the roads are close together, it doesn't matter if both are going down, both gates are going down at the same time, because the train's going to get there right away anyway. But the nice thing is that the sensors allow you to set it up in a way where the gates will come back up if you're not actually interrupting that road. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, going back to the sensors are infrared sensors, which basically are working on light, on infrared light. So there's two ways to set them up. And by the way, as the Trax allows that, so this particular board allows for that, or for track detection. But I just didn't want to get into track detection because I have occupancy detection going on right now, and I didn't want to interrupt that. I just think it's easier with the light. But going back to the light with the infrared, you could set them up in two ways. You could either set them up across the tracks, meaning one sensor on one side of the tracks and the other on the other side, or you can set them up under the tracks, where that's called, I think, reflective detection, where the sensors are bouncing the light off the bottom of the cars or the locomotives and back into the other sensor, and that's how you get the interruption of light. But from what I understand, it's a little tricky to do that setup. And with N-Scale, the ties on the tracks are so small that you would have to actually cut a tie or a few ties to get the light to actually go through. So I didn't want to mess with the track work. I think it's just fine just going across the track. Anyways, okay. So I bought the system with 4 sensors instead of 6. You can get up to 6 sensors. Or if you want to go even simpler, you can just go 2, meaning 1 entrance point and 1 exit point. I have the 1 entrance point, the midpoint, then the other midpoint for the other side, and then the exit points, which obviously can be reversed if you're going in the opposite direction. Now these are double main lines for the most part. It does turn into a single main line there, but the trains are going in both directions. So I needed to have detection coming from both ends, and that's why I decided to go with this particular panel. The nice thing is that you could always add sensors later. If I want to go with 6 later, I could always get more sensors and just add them, just to give me more detection as I go through. But since I went with 4, I'm going to explain what I did with the 4. So there's 2 kinds of sensors when you attach them to the board, and the logic that's programmed for the sensors are programmed as follows.